my Olympus XA, loaded up with some Portrait 400. I figured this might be a cool opportunity to take a few photos and see what's going on. So. Let's talk a little bit about the photos I took at Bear Island. So I sent them off to the lab, got them back. I did a little bit of editing on these. On these photos you see, I basically just took those highlights and just brought them back a little bit. Nothing too crazy, pretty simple. The other thing I did on this shoot that I don't typically do, I added quite a bit of saturation to these photos, and for some reason, and I've been noticing this with the XAs, when I start adding saturation, they start to get a little yellowy, kind of warm. They take on this warm quality that I absolutely love. So I don't know if that's like an older lens issue or something, but I actually like it quite a bit. And that's something I've never noticed in my Contax T. What's up, guys? So we're out here and we found the old road that was submerged when they made the lake. So check it out. You can see the road and it goes right into the water. So let me flip the camera around here. And this right here, this is the road. I think it was submerged in like the 50s. So this road here is from like the 50s. And it goes right across this island and connects to the mainland. So it's pretty crazy. Today we are drinking some Pinewood Social Coffee roasted at crema. If you're ever in the area, go check it out. All right, so let's get right down to business. We just saw a video that I took this summer from Bear Island. Now I had this bad boy here, right? The XA, the original, the one with the aperture control. This thing makes a lot of really great noises, by the way. Yeah. Wow. Anyways, love this camera. Now I did pick up a second one recently. This is the XA4 macro. This one is sporting the 28mm lens, so it's a little bit wider than the original guy. Also, the difference here is that this one doesn't have any aperture control. So it basically is pretty much fully automated, which I didn't think would be a big deal, but honestly, after shooting with both of these for a little bit now, I really like the original one. Now, the original one has a 35mm lens compared to the 28. I kind of tend to like the 35 a little bit better. Anyways, I got two of these guys now. Let's see what kind of noises this thing makes. Oh. It's got a little bit of a buzzy sound. Hang on. Pretty cool. Brought to you by Pinewood Social Coffees. But not really. First thing I want to talk about is why shoot film now anyways, right? Well, for me, it's all about the way it looks. And if I can get the look that I want with film, I'm gonna pay that extra money to shoot it. You cannot tell me that digital and film look the same. They don't. They do not look the same. You can shoot digital and try to make it look like film. It's still not film. I love the way film looks. I make a living by selling things that look good. So I'm gonna shoot film, that's simple. Now, I don't always shoot all film. I do shoot digital as well. I like a hybrid. I like a few film shots, you know, some digitals. mainly digitals, really, but I do like to mix in some film stuff with every shoot that I go on. So let's get right into the pros of these cameras. Number one is the price. These things are cheap. You can get this camera for anywhere from $100 to $300 in that range, depending on the model and the make and all the different things that you like. So number two, it has an internal light meter, which is great. When you're on the run and you're shooting photos on the fly, you don't want to pull out a light meter and figure this stuff out. Maybe you're just on vacation. Maybe you're just shooting in a coffee shop, or you're just taking pictures of your friends, or your street photography where you don't really have a lot of time to set your exposures. You can basically just choose your aperture that you want to shoot at and set your focus, and then just walk around and let the camera do the work for you. My experience with the light meter is it's pretty accurate. It doesn't really mess up that bad. The toughest situations for sure are backlit situations. Speaking of backlit, one of the photos I experimented on was a backlit with flash. The guy that was holding the fish, so that photo, the camera is exposing for that sun in the background, right? And then the flash is filling him in. And you can tell on this photo, it really worked out nice because the fill is very subtle. You can't really tell there's a lot of fill coming in from that flash. So I think it did a really good job on this photo. I actually like this photo a lot. One thing you could improve on is you could gel that flash. You can tell it's a little bit blue. When that sun goes down, it turns a lot warmer, and that flash coming in is a little blue on him. I didn't warm it up. You could warm it up and it would look great, but the other thing you could do is add a little gel to that flash and shoot. So I might do a video on that sometime too. Pro number three, durability. These things are fairly durable as far as I can tell. I've traveled quite a bit with this thing, and I am not easy on stuff. One of the jokes about me personally is that I break everything, and this is true. And somehow both these cameras have survived thus far, so they're durable. Pro number four, and this is a big one for me. There's not another camera I want to take to shoot party pics. The great example of this would be shooting at a wedding. If I'm at a wedding and I'm doing, the reception where they're dancing, and pull this little camera out with the flash on it, and it's as easy as just walking around and firing off shots. It's, when you got your 5D, and you got the big flash and the big lens, and you're walking around on the dance floor. It's a lot more work, and this little guy is just so easy just to walk around and have fun. And people don't freak out with these cameras. You walk in there and just, join the party a little bit. Hey guys, you're having fun or whatever, and just party picture it up. When I'm shooting those, I'm going to shoot digital, but I'm also going to shoot a couple rolls of film. Black and white always turns out really nice for those shots. I have shot some color stuff. Maybe I'll add a picture here, but I shot some color stuff that I thought was really cool actually, and I was using Portra 400 again for all that stuff, and kind of just like it a lot. Pro number five would be the aperture. So with these guys, you can just set your aperture where you want it, and then set your focus to where everything past like 8 feet is in focus, and you really don't have to worry about focusing at all. So for me, I'm not trying to get lots of depth of field in shots with these cameras, so especially at party pics, I could just walk around and I know everything from 6 to 8 feet and beyond will be in focus, and that just allows me to shoot freely and really focus on the composition and the subject. So it's all about the subjects for me, capturing those really great moments. This makes it really easy. You don't have to think much. You're focusing on capturing great moments, and for me, that's a huge pro. So another pro would be the fact that this thing is like being incognito with a camera. It's almost like taking pictures on a cell phone. People don't freak out when you're at a coffee shop and you pull this little camera out and you start clicking it and pointing it around. And I don't know how about you, but there's been so many times where I've been in public and I pull out my 5D or my A7R II, and it's this whole thing, right? And people look at you, they look at you like you're crazy. They're like, why are you taking photos of me? They immediately think, why are you taking my photo? Or sometimes I even get, why are you taking a picture of my kid? And I've had that before, and I'm like, no, I'm a photographer, I'm a street photographer. I'm just out having some fun today, taking photos. And people just get weirded out by it. But it's been my experience that when I am shooting with this camera, nobody says a word. I can pull this out right in the middle of a coffee shop and fire away, and people don't minded at all. So that is a huge plus for this camera, being able to go incognito. Love it. A lot of pros about this camera that I really love. Let's talk about some of the cons though. There are a few cons that you should be aware if you're looking to buy one of these cameras. So con number one would be film stock choices. You are limited on what kind of film stocks you can shoot in this. And the reason for that is because 400 speed film is honestly just borderline too fast. You have to shoot everything at like an f16, you know, and it's not the end of the world, but yeah, it's you know, not great. So you're kind of limited there. You can rate the 400 speed film at 200, and that's fine. But yeah, so I typically end up shooting ISO 100 speed films, and that seems to be a sweet spot. So if that's Portrait 160, I rate that at 100, and the shots are great. Another film that I really like is XA4 100. I think it looks great. I do shoot a lot of landscape with these cameras, so XA4 100 is another one of my favorite choices. And then the other one that I've been shooting a lot more lately is Cinestill 50D. This film has taken me a while to warm up on, well, because I just couldn't get used to the yellowy kind of look that it has. The more I've shot with it though, I've kind of fallen in love with it. It's kind of a look, it's kind of a style. It's all right for everything. I'm not gonna shoot a lot of that at a wedding, you know, but when I'm traveling, having an ISO 50 speed film is pretty clutch with these cameras. And for landscape stuff, I'm about to do a video I did in Seattle. I shot all 50D, and I think those photos are gorgeous. Those are kind of my three go-to film stocks, but Portrait 400 is really the one that I want to shoot, and it works great with flash, so you can definitely shoot it in darker situations and it's fine. And sometimes I'll rate it at ISO 200 and shoot, and it's fine too. So Portrait 400 is flexible enough that it does work in these cameras. The second limitation of this camera are the shutter speeds. The fastest is 1/500th of a second, and if you're shooting daylight, that's just not enough. You're limited on what f-stop you can shoot at. It limits you on what film stock you can shoot, and it's kind of a workaround. So something to be aware of about this camera for sure. Con number three, and this is basically what we've been talking about the whole time, is you don't have much of a choice in your f-stops. You kind of have to shoot this f16, f22. And we know that lenses aren't always the sharpest at those apertures. Usually the sweet spot is like an f5.6 to a 12, 11, somewhere around there. So yeah, not the end of the world, just something to think about. Con number three, and this is something that bugged me at first a lot, is the vignetting on this lens. This thing does have a pretty strong vignette on all the photos. The more I've shot with it, the less it bugs me, but it's still something to think about that this lens has a little bit more vignetting than you would be used to. The next con has to do with bokeh. If you're a bokeh shooter where that means the world to you, this camera's not for you. You're not gonna get a lot of bokeh. Shooting at a 2.8 with this thing, you can get some, but the bokeh looks weird. It's like almost triangular and kind of jagged looking. It's not like you would expect with your normal camera. So if bokeh is a big deal, if you shoot a lot of portraits, this camera is really not for that. Another con with this camera is the film loading. There's really no way to tell if there's film in there or not, or if you've loaded it. And I've actually gone and shot this thinking that there was film in there, and there was no film. So again, something to be mindful of is keeping good records of if there's film in this or not. And I've started putting stickers on the leash itself, letting me know that, hey, this is the date, this is the film that's in it, and yes, there's film in it. So something to be careful about. Again, this camera for me is all about traveling. It's relatively affordable, durable, shoots film. You can shoot it incognito. This camera is perfect for traveling. So if I'm going on a trip and this thing's so easy just to put in your pocket and just go and shoot, as you're doing your thing, you can just, it's in my pocket. Hey, that's a cool shot, bam, we got a cool picture. And so for me, I love the film format. And so this camera is something I end up taking a lot. It being cheaper than the Contax T. I love my Contax T. And I'll do a video later about how these compare. I would prefer to shoot with the Contax T. The images out of this are killer. They really are great. The lens is really sharp. It really is. And the other thing is this little door right here really does protect it, and you can't fire it. You can't fire the shutter when the door's shut. which is awesome. I don't know how many shots I've taken on my AE1 or whatever when I forget to lock it and I accidentally end up taking a photo. This thing won't even fire, so that's a big plus right there too. And then it protects that lens from dirt and all sorts of stuff. And then, hey, we got us a cool hipster photo. Let's go. All right, so let's sum this up real quick. Should you buy this camera? Absolutely. You should absolutely have one of these cameras. Then if you're like, oh, you know, it's not the quality that I want or whatever. And I said that too. I was like, I'm just going to buy it and shoot with it for a while and then sell it. But I ended up using this thing so much where it's times where I'm like, hey, I'm just going to the lake like this trip. I don't really want to bring a nice camera with me. I'm going to bring a camera that if it gets hurt, it's okay. If it gets scratched, it's okay. Like I put a couple scratches on my Contax T and it drives me insane to look at that thing. But with this, I don't care. And it's durable too. It's plastic. It feels well made. And if it gets a scratch in it, it's not the end of the world. You know, I feel like you should own a couple of these things because I just love them so much. And I'm shooting most of my work on Instagram and for my website. Randomly, these photos from this camera have made it onto my website. They're great, guys. All I'm saying is this camera is so much fun. And if you love photography, and especially if you love film photography, I'm going to highly recommend that you get this and you go out and create some work. All right, guys, it's been fun. Thanks for watching. And as always, I love you. And we'll see you on the next one.